Abusia for premo ato UTV area prem to break sebo eni ya de aseda kese this way chocolate drink do here any ensuo share special ice mineral water any enso tokra no amikotwa mu na utumi se any obia aso obi toga chese ka makia no mo tweko ensuo no de eye entunumusuo awia no ayetimu ne de ensuo a enesese ye no mo we enna wo madama yede awia premto beka sebo ebro na kasebo no nsema wo bete ebini se national security de nsema ba betudwa chemu posifo ananu ya wo mkobu ye nua bema keleb kuda e wo city fm a wo kotwa afoni e wo national security ne ye UB fm bebre won so a yede wo ekoma na police a wo mo ye nhwemu se de ba emra no ebe ye adwuma de moon statement kese no pa aban e de aba na yede moon chechemu na ebe tudwa amobia ehu sanso e na ochofo pani general secretary man national Democratic Congress NDC aminyokono HSA Electoral Commission wo ma ndi ni ye nema bebre wo ma se wo ma ansesa IPAC meeting ni de wo mo nko ne wo mo nko china ejise wo mo sesa ansa na wo meeting wo mo ebeko NDC Director of Elections yera ebise free ankraso achem se Electoral Commission na hia so wo sesa wo no ankasa wo no nyenye so wo na mabonti a wo je fans na ye free no wo ya ade 2020 abato no se nema bebre wo ma isi no esese wo sesa ansa na wotumi aye adwuma se de se na fata wo de besom Ghana man ye beko amanone kase bomu ye beko akohwe se nhwemu bia empedifo aye de ho amane aba bituja se covid no enipa e beka wo mo abibi memu na Africa ye ombe yare pa no wo hwemu pa de to wo mu nuanom e wo abroche no ade a Africa fo no mo mbewu echen wo mu nuanom a e wo Europe ene America beko akohwem de enti a san hwemu no mo de ba san se covid ba ye nyina enim se abrofu mu na mawu kese so adwemoni nti mo se steri aye bebifo yi any ebewu ye beka kwahwe sa report no emu abisa for friend me lady Afia Pokua ye fa se munum chechemu enyina emre ne mu ye ka wo se obetimi ahwe UTV kase boy live ewo eye YouTube so na wo de wadwenche so atwa na nkomo bewia no obetimi de ato ye Facebook so live na peacefmonline.com UTV so ye Instagram ya de ni na wo de power e benya abuti akenka ni na e de amabuta for afi ye fa se munum chechemu entoa esom ya shaka se bona se e wo national security na national security for amani amudi aba betudwa se na anu asem esi ye efe enu abema keleb kuda ye nsechoni e wo city fm eye adwumako no emu ene national security for bia abantende asem beto abonten se wo ma brimri na na ezu obro wanka so pampam wo ma bro ne papa e ma ensem no be ye he mankofo kra de betudwa se ase esi pa de nsentro for ye mpese e be ye adwuma na so na nkofo bi so ka se ba bia keleb kuda ko twa amfoni wo national security no na oni ho kwan se wo twa emfoni sanse na notice ebo ho no ma di adanse se ho de ye ntwa mfoni e na okotwa emfoni national security for ba abonte be ka asase mi wo mu ye nhwemu wo mu ye nhwemu ni wie ye wo mu de aba betu edwa se wo mu aye nhwemu na ma wo se ye ra keleb kuda wo city fm wo mu che no mebusu me da etoso du ba akon afie we ye mu no wo mu te committee a che se wo mu se committee no enye nhwemu se de bo mbehu se de ensem no ekoso na eye lieutenant colonel Frank Ajiman director of operations any police officers bi wo ministry womo na saada no womo koye adwumedi no womo se kwan a womo fa so womo ye adwumedi no hwemu mompaade a ministry na kasa ye asoye no womo obibi e fe no standard operation procedures etia kwan a womo fa so womo de abrant ensechoni ni fa so no etia enti ministry no se womanfo se saa kwan a womo de fa so ni ti ene se fa sa so womo ye hwemu se de ba womo behu se de ensem no ekona fei womo se de etoso mienu ye mpanifo bi emienu bi ho no ma womo so eka ho a womo kofa ye nua be ma keleb kuda edne fa basa enu eye ne nyansem abrantie ba abonte be ka so wo mabro no wo se sa enkrofo ye 3 police officers a wo mu yare draw wo ma na ye yi wo mu e de wo mu every national security honum sei ye de enkram wo mu se wo mu nko Ghana Police Service enfo wo mu di enkotodwa na wo ene wo be hya se aye enhwemu ene disciplinary action asotwe bi esefata se yede ma wo mu se nhwemu no betodwa se de wo mu de abrante nsentoni ni fa so no etia mra ene no so emra ene sa police fo miensa no ebedi papa afi wose ministry no san abo omanfo ewe Ghana fo na no ba se wo mu sre wo ma ada se wo mu ne nsentofo na ye adwuma enu nti no asem we wo mba hwemu fikofiko no ama se de etie bia no kwasem ewo mu no etimi aba beto edwa afi asem fofo bia so ye fa national security ni bia ho ya no so wakwa nsentwe na Ghana ni bia nkronkro oti bebia no wo mbehwe so mbehwe mu fikofiko ama no kwasem ewom no eno so aba beda abonten afei wo mse ne krakra no wo mo sro manfo bi o se national security fo no wo emra Wosa wo akwankyere a ekye ekwan efa so a ewo so wo de adwuma ebesom Ghana manfo ni nyina ene Ghana bia ne wo man ne mpanifo akwankyere wo de ato efom no enuti wo mo hye Ghana fo bo se saa kwan no no mbefa so a wo de adwuma wo mo toto ensem no ase ewo kwan bia so wo mo yue no wo mo kyese ehwemu no mu aye ba wo mo de ni nyina ba beto edwa asase mo yewra kandapa wono ene soafo a wono ene wo hwe Ghana banbo ehun sem so de ne sa ehye ase a wo de ensem we nyina no aba beto edwa Every national security in seven so na fe yenkwa amanyosem yakwa amanyosem a NDC wo mo chofo pani yera Albert Kandapa akire se wo hwe kwan a wo mo fa so de IPAC meeting no a enye se de wo mo hye ase so wo be ye adwuma nya saa ene wo mo de ye adwuma ne ena no pe obepie mu wo mpunumpu dwumedie so na eja kwamna etwetwe nkomo na General Mosquito se de ta friend no say IPAC meeting na ya wo mo kono kane wo mo tete iPad no se ono General Mosquito de wache onye ne ba wo mo wobotae esi wo mo ni so wo mo de tete iPad ne de wo mo afiri ho kra ene wo mo ye bibia wo mo ankasa pe no wo ma nko saa back to so de obi be se back to sender back to the enti wo mo de iPad ni si wa ene na iPad no wo mo ndisi de wo mo nko agu anesa
so onim se meeting bia wo de enti ayeko ye ko school ade ne ko ye se ekosua ade o chase ye kwa himfia ye kodi asem enti se ohunu se suku bi abeda ne se afi de okọ ha anya adisua ne yesua no ha na o de ba akotena ha mana ye den enu nti ye help ne se IPAC no kwan e fa so ba ne botae enti a IPAC no ba no sai electoral commission we wadane abutu enti ukotena IPAC a wo se wadaje adita the entire IPAC buy ne say okay say brebi 92 yeto abano MPP for yeto presidential first near to presidential and sunny abeto parliamentary yeto presidential no we na MPP for ka say wo msusu say ye wie munti presidential no ye wie munti wo mo meto parliamentary no bi na wo mo twen wo mo ho free ho President Rollins any electoral commission for at that time say presidential elections no MPP for nya 40% ne kakra enti population no say 40% ya dwene nim na ka say wo kotranse aye nhihye bi e de abeto aba e che say asem na wo pese e ba o man no enu nti no mumie ntwe mra no aye hihye no wo parliament ye fa abato ho no yentwe bi mfa mra electoral commission na electoral commission for the MPP for omodeba meeting na yenye bibibi enhyemu bi a oman no mu parties no betimi ahia a MPP beba bi na yenyina mra ye de beko 1996 election yenyina yagina so ahihye said the be subsequent election no e be acceptable to everybody enu na kofa IPAC ba in 1994 enti IPAC nhihye no yenko ho enkoto aba ekotena ho a weisi minsusuye ni weisi minsusuye ni weisi minsusuye ni ne afa no maako yebobo so a de abawo mu a yenyina begie atum by consensus ne atwira to ho se oman no nyina susu se we ye de adwuma eye de ye be ya akinye beba ho no ne de ato nkyɛn for da foforo saa na yusu IPAC no e de aye all these changes e wo electoral system no ma babisi da no enu nti IPAC no ye consensus building mechanism enti so obi ba no oba be fa IPAC no to do something else ya as I say IPAC no afiri ni dua so enti enya botaye enti ade hihye IPAC no e na e koso no enti wo abekwa akotena ho no we still time
every year I said nketi aso ne yeda ho gina NDC amanyoko na aka che no wo mo kwanche for penny ohwa abato ho nsem so ema amanyoko no yawa every say free yankra kan no na ko ne so afo a wo hwe agudie ho nsem so akire mu se enkosi se electoral commission beteta ni suban no wo mo de NDC for de wo mo nte kra so odogo bi hunu abe o sanse Ghana ha no emra ho efa abato ho na nanse wo ma hunu se electoral commission for ne na bo ho safo hene ena na no abato 2020 wo ma ya de na Ghana for mpene wo mu e na every say free yankra se wo mu se e wo se NDC for eye ne ma bebre a wo ma yesentofo hyiemu e mo de nsem bebre atodwafa electoral reforms anansa kraye betimi aye de na so electoral commission no wo no so se so se no subande enya no wani na edo dodo.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we have taken note of some proposals for reforms that the Electoral Commission has put forward for the consideration of IPAC. However, in our view, the first and most important reform required is for the EC to reform itself. Particularly, Jan Mensa and Boss Manasari, they must be the first to reform and change their attitude of arrogance and bias. Ladies and gentlemen, we have worked with various commissioners, we've worked with Dr. Farijan. The posturing and attitude of Jane Mensah and Boss Manasari is that of unbridled arrogance, pomposity, bias, and disrespect, particularly for the NDC and its national officers. And you can bear testimony of the numerous instances. You go for a meeting with this woman, things that were not on the agenda. After the meeting, she comes out, releases a statement, and says, we all agreed on something we didn't even discuss, which was not on the agenda. You go for a meeting, General Secretary chuckles, he said, you can't laugh in my meeting. Complete disrespect. Proposals upon proposals, inputs upon inputs. There is not even one, single one, since this EC came to power, that the NDC has put forward that they have listened to. And in many instances, we have been vindicated. We'll come to that. Friends from the media, contrary to the claims by the EC chairperson that the 2020 general elections was the best ever in the history of this country, and calls for the nation to celebrate some so-called unprecedented successes chalked by the EC in the conduct of the elections, the facts show that last year's elections was one of the most poorly conducted, flawed, and manipulated elections in the history of this country. A situation that has undermined the strides we have made since the inception of this fourth Republican democratic dispensation. And we say this for the following reasons. One, the dubious handling of the printing and distribution of ballot papers and other electoral materials that led to ballot stuffing by the MPP in their strongholds and other regions. You will recall that we invited you here and showed you videos of over 1 million ballot papers that we found after the distribution of ballot papers. And those ballot papers were meant for Ashanti region. Again, during the elections, we found ballot papers that had been authenticated with the EC's own validation stamp in several parts of the Ashanti region. And in fact, in some constituencies, because the alarm was raised, those ballot papers were dumped. And we have cause to believe, based on our final assessment, that some of these ballot papers found their way into the ballot boxes in the strongholds of the MPP. The unprecedented number of rejected ballots recorded in the elections, owing largely to the incompetence and recklessness of the EC in using unapproved stamp pads instead of the approved voting ink pad that we have used in previous elections. Again, you will recall that in this particular election, the EC, for some strange reason, decided to use some very strange stamp pads. And what happens is that when people go and vote and they fold the ballot, because there's so much liquid in the ink pad, it then sticks onto the other side of the ballot. And that is one of the reasons why we had so many rejected ballots.
NDC amanyoko no sense mo wo fa abato no wo mani abre a wo ka ho asem eno no ye free ho na afa ye nko adan ne mpotem wo be kai songo nsem a efri kofi wa we abre so bae na ama fix it ama do this ama den wo ye ya brofo sem sa na wantumi anye songo die say ayi wo de sen company kese pa ba ya wo ba be ye songo no ho adwuma na akwakoya manso wo songo ho ahemfo ne bi so wo mte ase e bi so wo mte ase nti ahemfo ene mpanifo wo motepa bi awe abusuani mo mo ena songo asase na nkyene wo so no wo mo de a ye sika kese pa mpanifo kan ko pepepepepepe ena ka Ghana ebenya wo matoto ase abusua no a wo mo so wo mte ase ense wo mo makwan se de ba songo no mbetimi atuo wo makoton enkyene wo abroche na mfaso bia songo na it's gold ene diamond Ghana enke betimi enya wom na yetumi akoyanim.
Few people within the Tekwebiawe clan who are trying to create confusion and tell palpable lies to derail the smooth running of the project, claiming the Songo Lagoon belongs to them. Let me state clearly that this is a big lie. They should come out and convince the whole world that the Songo Lagoon belongs to them and prove how the resource belongs to them. The administrator of any clan, the 10 clans, if I say any clan in Adan, I mean the 10 clans in Adan, is the Wechui, and he is assisted by the Asava Chengwa. This started since 1954, 1955, and then 1956, and that is what is continuing up till today. There is no position, let me repeat, there is no position in the Tekwebiawe clan for Koliwono, no. There is no position in the Tekwebiawe clan called Koliwono, no. As being claimed by some people, especially the Ayonu family, which forms about 0.05% of the total population of the Tekwebiawe clan. This same family is claiming that the Songo belongs to them. Can they prove to the world that the Songo really belongs to them? If they have any documentation, we are ready to receive them. And I'm sure the press here are also ready to receive them for their records. Ye bami no hu. Ye susumi ke ye klemi ne fonsi momoji kan ke wa mana woni cheme wanyemi makoli ne wa balie kan chape no pan se ekoli ne hiun wanyem Tekwebiawe no yun le ke wa wo electrocam lo wa wo songo ke wo edon le ye la na ye nyemi me kla ne agafo mange no ma hiyo apale ke ba ne wa pekake wage wachwo kakaka imeneke no 95 families ipape family oko ne ko je hegemi me kla wo buajo nkake ne wake fua makole enichumi ono ne wodi cheme wanyemi yo ni papa hin ne majemi keba e ma ha wo hu hejomi.
Abusafo ye free songo so letcho kemadwuma ko magdan shipping adwuma no ya wono anso ye adani wono ana ekofa adwuma ko na opese odane adwuma ko nani se de ba manso se ya ama kofi wayo ntumi anye no onde obetimi aye ne sika nso aba adan mamu ne mpuntuo enhyeda eni adan ye free honom ne enko mines ya ye da ho mines enkyene no so eno so ye mine ya ye tu enkyene etse mining de omoje license ya na openi kase oni chief executive officer ma Ghana Chamber of Mines e de atu adwase yo srempanifu omoma licenses no ne ade se mining license enko fo nko ye se bia small scale yo be large scale mining ne ade omukotu agudie no wo sire wo mu ana wo munye de wo friend bro ni kase mu se intensive monitoring wo mu fo mani ni akire pa se ampa agudie no ye tu no kwan so e do how bi ba enye sa de se ye hunu ya mine ne de nsusuaso bone ba no e beto aso sa.
The reality to say law no or passe whenever you have infractions like this na amuchi illegal miners no na amu seize equipment no say eco court and confiscate equipment for the state. But we are in this country and we know what actually happened in the past. Say amuchi illegal miners no amu confiscate excavators no. Eventually these excavators they get returned to the owners. So probably that is why government thinks that this time around, to discourage the perpetration of illegal mining, excavators. But we all know what the law is. So my view is that even if this is what government wants to do, then they should make sure that this action is consistent with the law. The law which government actually passed some years ago regarding how to do this. So that is my view. Ideally, we should be able to use it to do other works for the state. Reclamation, dredging of waterways and so on and so forth. But I'm sure government is also taking this action based upon our recent past, that although the law says we should confiscate and give it to the state, district assemblies, municipal assemblies for work and all of that. The reality is that these things then go back. And probably that is why government is doing this. All we ask for is that whatever action government wants to take, we just plead that it is actually consistent with the law. That's about it.
Mainsi munsensem yenko mainsi yemwe yeko wasadompo ase wa Memphis East mpotemo honom na omanfo honom de esu ene yaw esra ban se de enkofo yi ayeso wo mo na emehwe se mainsi ne galamse enum ne ade etu obetwe se de wo matu wo mani esu wo so mba wo mu bri wo mu no ahomte enti abanfa ne ho nyim se de ba wo mumro wo mo hyehye wo mo ne manom ne ade wo mo empotemo eho
Wasa dompase eye kroba ko ewa Amenfi East mensinemo ewo atoye mantem na adehye omo wasa dompase omo esu omo etwa adwo omo kire se nansia aban hyehye a wo ye se omo etu sika kokko ewo kwan bone so enkanka ensuo eho no omo enkopam omo na omo enyi emfidi ahodo omo edi etu sa agudie no aya sojafo no ebinum aba bepie mu ewo wasa dompase na rehosem no se omo nka bi nhyiemu amanfo edem a yentu sika kokko wo ho ena sojafo ni bi aboawura ho a ebi sika be 35000 ebi sika 6000 ebi sika 1200 wo mo ka ahodo a ni nyina no asojafo ebepie monom no wo mo yiyi ni nyina akọ owura bi a wono oye koko purchasing clerk a wodi emfie aduanan miensa wono ni sika be 35000 Ghana cedis no mu mo efaaye binum kra efamu epra iye pa na wo mo kire se enya ade obi etu sika kokko bia ewo obi edem anase obi efie ena adehye ebusa se anye bia ensuo ben na da wo mo edem a wo mo etu sika kokko wo ho wo mo dwire wo mo nte ase enam so ama wo mo ede asem no akwakoja wasa ekropon apolisifo asesi a wo mo eye enhwehwemu na no ena UTV nsem twerefo ekopie mo no ma wo mo ka wo makosem kwan a sojafo ebi ede wo mo afa so
Sunday 9 o'clock mo honum mikrofon na me ba be frame se sojafo ba me fie ho me ba ya omo bubu Midday wa ina nim se be o misika wodam ho aye 35000 afas Canada ko achi me ba ma we friend Joshua Ezu 21 years boy omo abono a jini sika e de ko anu ochi no me don machine wodam ho omo tam don machine de ko ana me kia bongo asifie ho omo de ka no susu ko obi excavator wo me ho aya park asifie contractor ne bia wo ye kwan free anwanya junction to wasadu mpwase nkofoi a ye suja foi bomba sei machine na a huka klobet miabru iskada be 1 billion enti mesrena nado ni ni panefo ministry of interior ye da ya gia tum se galandu dia wo se sia no but akwan na omo fa so attack yo mefie no omo kwan mu ensa se de no mesi ko no anu ya yeshi
maba na mo ba kire obi wo ni fie a na fa maba wura mesum fie abebu me punani ama msika 60 million da ho no msika na yem de tokoko sisi menye sika mpon tokoko nti nanado yesra no so ma sojafo no nko o tena be no mo na muhuro hu na ye
tokoto aduane wo ekuru bi so ha me ba ana mo che me no mo bu mi ade ba fi o mo tibi ka se me hanga me na na hanga me na etu na chisi no o mo de abbo mi sisi achi ana ba ko de ha ma rim tim ne pae na me de msa kan na me yin si na emoja na wasi moje ba unya hu hwempo Tinjina almost in fact came home. Can you see any more? Miss Keenum or Miadavani? No bomb me and Sam Jam could jam Miss Yassi was a memlefi.
Dear Mr. Mampenny said, Dear Wayan, dear, a papa pay. About boiling, I'm a quiet to an edge now. About boy means you are saying na day. I see a name. Now, my master on Mampenny said, so just now was one woman and now. Or I do have some said, my dear, dear Babo man, next woman.
If you want Afia, the need share a standards. Na Ghana Standard Authority so a kwanchira wo mugina so a enwuma bia ya obi a won wo mo susudia wo de carry ehwese wei na sese odwuma na wudie no eduru ho ansa na wo ya no wetimi aye adwuma na adekro na wo ton no wetimi aba abonten abeton enam so wo man entity adwumadie bi e de afa sa standards na Ghana Standard Authority ebese wo mo de adwuma mebo o manfo nyina.
Kick off meeting for a project a friend Fit for Purpose National Metrology Institute NMI edosupa na yebechemu say can metrology a science of measurement so to adi ana o ton ade a onim say we see 1 kilo 1 kilo say see 1 pound 1 pound in quantity na see 1 pound now from 75 Ghana CDB ye kwakọ join you are saying ya jai imperial measures afi the friend metric the Ghana share mrase Afia, as a country, we are going to metric. It is a petrol station, a gallon, 1975. But that same time, I started defending Fanny Benkum. Now, I started, never be brave more, young year. You possess also top people of Ghana, so the quadruple say Ghana 1 kilo, so do a 1 kilo. Answer by Ghana, that's Ministry of Trade.